for $1,850. Couples spa package, oceanfront experience. That's what the alert on my banking app read. No warning, no apology, no second thoughts. Just a quiet little bomb dropped on a Tuesday afternoon while I was sorting receipts and tracking mileage deductions in a spreadsheet that hadn't been touched since March. I didn't react. Not at first. I just stared at the number, then the note attached to the charge. Couples spa package, oceanfront experience. Couples, not solo, not girls trip, not networking retreat, as she called it when she left 3 nights ago in that blue silk blouse she never wears around me anymore. And right on cue, like a script written in hell, her text came through 5 minutes later. Miami is amazing. Wish you were here. Winking face. Wish I was there. I am. At least financially. Every damn charge on the joint account since she landed has had my name co-signed in digital blood. The flight. The penthouse. The overpriced ceviche. And now this, a spa day for 2, billed to the man sitting home eating leftover chili and balancing tax forms. I typed one sentence. Glad you're enjoying the hotel. My lawyer has the receipt. Then I hit send. Quietly. No anger. No dramatic follow-up. Just a single truth. Enough to turn a sunny day in Miami into a Category 5 silence. I closed the laptop. The room was dead quiet except for the slow hum of the radiator behind me and the soft thunk of the dishwasher switching cycles. I walked to the filing cabinet, opened the 3rd drawer, and pulled out a manila folder I hadn't touched in over a year. On the label, handwritten in my blocky, methodical print, Clause 14, Corporate Conduct. 3 years ago, I helped her proofread the company's revised ethics manual. I'd been a contracts consultant in a past life, the kind of guy who got paid to find the loopholes everyone else missed. She hated how long I took with it. Said I sucked the fun out of everything. I told her that was kind of the point of compliance. Back then, she joked about one specific section I added, a clause about romantic entanglements during corporate-sponsored travel. Something about termination if expenses were involved. You're such a buzzkill, she'd said, laughing, sipping wine at our kitchen island. Maybe, I replied. But this buzzkill just saved your company from a future harassment lawsuit. She rolled her eyes. I remember the way she winked after, like none of it mattered. But now it does, because now her hand is on the grenade she thought I'd never pull the pin on. And before we go deeper, I just want to say something real quick. If you're still here listening to this, and more than 90% of you won't be subscribed, just tap that button. Seriously, it helps the team who brings these stories to life. Make sure the next one hits even harder. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Trust me. I sat back down, flipped the folder open, and read through my own notes like I was reviewing the final act of a play I'd forgotten I wrote. There it was, Clause 14. Bolded. Specific. Ironclad. If 2 employees engaged in a romantic relationship during company-funded travel, and any shared expenses were billed to the company or its affiliates, it triggered an automatic ethics investigation. Immediate grounds for dismissal pending board review. That clause was the fuse. And I had the lighter. The final proof wasn't even the spa charge. It was the Instagram photo her work husband posted yesterday, tucked under the radar. Not on his main feed. He's not that stupid, but buried in a private story some clients still had access to. A mutual acquaintance sent it to me with no caption. Just the photo. Her feet in his lap. Him holding a glass of champagne. A sunset over water in the background. The same spa resort she just charged me for. Her bare feet. His hand. My credit card. So I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Colin Weaver. He used to be one of the sharpest compliance attorneys in the state. Now he's chief compliance officer at her boyfriend's firm. When he picked up, he didn't even say hello. He just said, "How bad is it?" I told him, "Depends. Do you still enforce the handbook your firm sent out 3 years ago?" He paused, then said, "Clause 14. Exactly." There was a long silence. Then he exhaled and said, "Send me everything." I did. Receipts. The screenshot of the resort charge. The photo. The ethics clause. The internal company document she once laughed about over Pinot Noir. When I was done, Colin said just 5 words. "I'll take it from here." She thought it was a vacation, but she booked herself a hearing. She posted a boomerang from the pool bar at exactly 1:43 p.m. Strawberry daiquiri in hand, oversized sunglasses, legs crossed like she thought she was on a yacht in St. Tropez. The caption read, "My kind of board meeting, smiling face with sunglasses son." Cute. I was in a glass-walled office 20 stories up, sitting across from a man I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. Colin Weaver, back then, We were two overworked federal compliance analysts buried in red tape and whispered scandals. Now, he wore a fitted Navy suit that probably cost more than our first car, his nameplate gleaming under the title, Chief Compliance Officer. I slid the folder across the polished table. No pleasantries, no smiles, just the manila edge bumping into his espresso saucer like a slow drumbeat. He opened it. Read the first page, then the second. By the time he got to the photo, the one from that client dinner where her hand was in her work husband's lap under the tablecloth, his jaw flexed. You learn to watch those things in meetings like this. The little betrayals the body gives away before the mouth even opens. He looked up. You're not filing this with HR? I shook my head. No, you are. There was a pause. Long enough for the air conditioner to hum through the silence like a warning. Does she know you brought this to me? No. She still thinks I'm home doing taxes. Another pause. I'm assuming you want it handled quietly. Not exactly. I leaned back in the chair, crossed one ankle over my knee. I want it handled effectively. If quiet gets us there, great. If not, I tilted my head slightly. I'm comfortable with noise. Colin rubbed his temple, then reached for the pen beside his monitor. He didn't ask why I was doing this. Didn't ask if I was sure. Men like him, like us, we don't need the why. The why is written in the $4,850 receipt, the time-stamped Instagram photo, and the clause she co-authored and forgot existed. He started jotting notes. The spa package alone would justify an audit under internal finance policy. Add the relationship, the photos, the hotel charge, and the fact that she's on a work trip with someone junior to her? Jesus. I stayed quiet. He flipped another page. The one where I'd annotated her direct edits to clause 14. Her own handwriting, in red, underlined. Feels a little harsh. Should we soften this? Next to it, my old response. Harsh is the point. Clarity protects everyone. I didn't smile, but I felt something twist, not satisfaction, not yet, something colder. The weight of inevitability, maybe, or the kind of balance only a ledger can deliver. Colin sighed. You want to tank the guy too? She's not the only one billing time under false pretenses. He used a company card for that suite. I checked the statement. Colin looked at me for a long time, then said, they're going to regret ever putting you in the same spreadsheet as just a husband. He was right. They didn't know who I was. Not really. To them, I was the guy who made coffee, who reminded her to pack Advil before a flight, who edited her PowerPoint decks while she networked at cocktail hours. I was the silent one, the steady one, the one who, in her words, was never really ambitious, but a good partner. Let them keep thinking that. She was still posting from the cabana when Colin emailed the internal audit request to their COO. Blind copy to legal. Subject line, urgent review, ethics policy violation, corporate retreat. The wheels were turning. Quietly, yes, but fast. Much faster than she would ever see coming. Somewhere between her poolside mimosa and the next bikini boomerang, her boyfriend's company had just opened an investigation into misuse of funds, potential breach of policy, and violations of a clause she helped write. And while she laughed under palm trees with someone else's hand on her thigh, I was back in my car, engine idling, sunglasses on. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to beg. I just had to let the paper do the talking. I still remember the night she slid that draft across our kitchen table like it was some kind of peace offering. She had that sheepish look she used when she wanted something from me. Glass of wine in one hand, bare feet tucked under her like a teenager asking for the car keys. Babe, she said, can you take a look at this? They need a final read-through before the offsite next week, and honestly, I'm drowning. You're so good at this stuff. The document was a draft version of the company's updated code of conduct. Thick with boilerplate jargon, riddled with inconsistencies, clauses that contradicted each other in the same paragraph. It was amateur hour. I didn't say that, of course. I just read it. Redline the parts that made no legal sense, tighten the phrasing where it sagged, and, somewhere around page 12, added a clause. It wasn't vengeful. Not then. It was procedural. Sensible. She and her colleagues were going on a corporate retreat where alcohol would flow, hierarchies would blur, and the potential for career-ending mistakes would be as high as the hotel minibar tab. So I wrote, romantic involvement between employees during corporate-sponsored travel will result in immediate review for termination, especially where expense abuse is evident. I showed her the note. She read it aloud, laughing. God, you're such a lawyer. Can't we have any fun? You can have fun, I said. Just not at your company's expense. Or mine. She rolled her eyes. No one's sleeping with anyone. This isn't Mad Men. I didn't argue. Just smiled. Highlighted it in yellow. Saved the file. She hit send. That was 3 years ago. Today, that clause, her clause, sat at the center of a corporate investigation with her name all over it. The irony would have been delicious if it wasn't so sad. I didn't need to twist the knife. I just had to remind the board she'd sharpened it herself. When Colin forwarded the updated compliance report to the general counsel, he attached the clause she'd asked me to review. Her revision history was still visible in the track changes. Her initials, her comments, her LOL, let's hope this never happens face with tears of joy, remark in the margin. Colin called me after the submission. They're spooked, he said. Legal doesn't like how clean this is. The clause, the receipts, the timeline, there's no wiggle room. That's why I wrote it that way. She's not just going to lose her team. She might be done. I didn't reply. In my hands was the printout of her flight itinerary. She booked the trip using their corporate partner portal, filed it under client outreach. The same client she claimed had canceled last minute. The same client who, according to the CRM, hadn't done business with their firm in over a year. Expense abuse? Check. Romantic involvement? The spa receipt handled that. Traveled during corporate-sponsored time? Miami was their annual retreat city this quarter, covered by the firm's travel budget. All three lined up like dominoes. And the clause she once giggled over like it was a joke? It was now the hammer coming down. I sat at the same kitchen table where she first asked for help. Her chair was empty. Half the time now it was. She was always traveling. Always in back-to-back strategy sessions. Her out-of-office messages were starting to sound more like "do not disturb" signs than work notifications. I opened my laptop. On my desktop, I had an old Word doc titled Conduct Policy_Final_Edited. Inside was the clause, in black and white. She used to joke that I over-prepared for everything, that I treated life like a deposition, always anticipating the worst, always drafting just in case. What she never understood was that people like me don't prepare for the worst because we expect it. We prepare for it because we see it coming. I stared at her initials next to the clause. DT. She left her fingerprints on the very policy that was now tightening around her like a noose. And the worst part? She had no idea I just pulled the lever. She set the rules. I just played by them. The audit didn't begin with a bang. It started with a keyword search. Compliance fed the receipts into an expense monitoring tool, something she probably never thought twice about. It was routine, automated, boring. But boring has teeth when you're sloppy. Flagged. Room 415, Oceanfront Deluxe, 3-night stay. Billed to the company's MasterCard under his name, Marcus T., Client Development Director. Justified under Client Entertainment, Q for Engagement. Flagged. Couples Spa Package, added by Danielle T., Business Strategy Lead. Logged under Wellness Amenity, Client Recovery Session. Client Recovery Session? What kind of client needs a volcanic mud wrap and tandem shiatsu massage? From there, things accelerated. Hotel records confirmed the room had been used by 2 adults. 1 male, 1 female. Matching names to the reservation. Matching emails to the firm's internal domain. The time-stamped photos didn't help their case. Not just the ones she posted, but the ones she didn't realize were public. A hotel social media manager had tagged her in a group shot from the rooftop bar. Nameplates visible, champagne flutes raised, her hand resting on Marcus's shoulder like she'd already moved in. The hotel's app recorded 2 spa users for the Ocean Bliss experience. No client was listed, just their 2 names. All it took was one intern from security to cross-reference the badge swipes. Neither Danielle nor Marcus had used their corporate access cards for 4 days straight. Meanwhile, their time-tracking software showed them both logging billable hours from Miami. The first domino had tipped, and she was still tanning. Back at headquarters, the COO's assistant sent a message to Colin. Subject line, need to meet. Quietly. No explanation. Just urgency. Inside the compliance war room, the folder I handed off was now duplicated across 6 devices. Red flags lighting up the dashboard. Internal email chains threading together years of minor infractions suddenly glowing with new context. She wasn't just part of the ethics breach. She was its architect. By lunchtime, the board's risk oversight chair was looped in. The general counsel had already drafted a response to potential inquiries from external auditors, should this breach leak into their quarterly report. It wouldn't be the first time an affair torpedoed a merger, but it could be the most embarrassing and expensive. The merger was delicate already. 1 toe out of line from any exec, and their acquisition partner would walk. No golden parachutes. No soft landings. Just a cliff. Someone sent a screenshot of her board meeting Instagram post into the internal Slack channel. No comment, just the image. Legs outstretched, drink in hand. Caption, living my best life, face blowing a kiss. That was all it took for the whispers to begin. In the kitchen, by the elevators, outside the glass conference room where she once led quarterly briefings in that same navy blazer she always said made her look like she owned the place. Except now, the building was quietly closing in on her. Legal pinged the CTO for device history. Who had accessed what files? When? From what IP? Her work laptop was geotagged in Miami Beach while she submitted a client compliance form digitally signed on site. Meanwhile, Marcus? His expense report listed the trip under New Account Prospecting, Q4. They both knew the rules. They both knew the optics. But they thought they were above the audit trail. That when you post just the right filter, when you file the right vague justification, when your performance reviews are strong enough, people stop asking questions. They don't. They just ask them quietly. The COO left her a voicemail that afternoon. Calm. Measured. We'll need to sync on your Miami deliverables. I'll send an Outlook invite. Please be ready to walk through the itemized expenses. Just you. She didn't reply for 5 hours. When she finally did, her tone was still casual. Sure thing. We'll loop Marcus in. The response back was instant. No need. Just you. That's when the first hairline fracture formed. She might have shrugged it off. Might have told herself it was procedural. But something in that tone. Just you. She reread it twice, then put her phone down slowly. Confidence cracked. The whisper of a question stirred in her chest. And somewhere, back at HQ, Colin closed the latest tab on her travel log and muttered to no one in particular. She doesn't know it yet, but she's already done. The CEO's office was a glass box perched above the skyline, soundproofed but not shielded from pressure. By the time the compliance report landed on his desk, the tone in the building had shifted. Not panicked yet, but tight, controlled, like the first moments before a controlled demolition. He flipped through the documents with the kind of detached precision only C-suite veterans learn. Spa receipts, hotel charges, screenshots of social posts, a clause from the ethics manual, highlighted, annotated, signed. The names on the forms matched. Marcus T., Danielle T., the couple that wasn't supposed to be. He set the file down, steepled his fingers, then asked, without looking up, "Who's this guy?" Colin, seated quietly at the far end of the room, didn't pretend not to know who he meant. The man who sent the legal memo. The one who flagged the compliance breach. Who is he? Colin cleared his throat. Name's Alex Carr. HR. No. The CEO looked up. External counsel? No. Not anymore. He's not on retainer. Then why the hell is he writing like he knows our code better than we do? Colin opened a different folder, pulled out a page. He used to be a federal contract negotiator. Defense procurement. Oversight audits. The kind of guy who didn't lose. Ever. The CEO leaned back. Why do I feel a but coming? Colin slid the next page forward. A short resume, clipped, old but still sharp. He advised 3 of our partners on high-risk M&A deals. Non-public. He ghostwrote half the compliance clauses we use now. The man's a scalpel. Silence stretched. And, the CEO said, voice lower. Colin exhaled. And he's her husband. The room went dead quiet. Not awkward. Not surprised. Cold. Calculating. The kind of silence that usually comes before a boardroom purge. The CEO leaned forward, slowly. She's the strategist on the merger. Correct. He's the one who wrote the clause she violated? Yes. The CEO stared at the name again, as if expecting it to change. He picked up the phone, hit a single button. Get legal in here. And I want a direct number for Alex Carr. Call him. Immediately. He hung up before she even answered. Across the building, in a very different office, she was still smiling through phone calls, rerouting questions, pretending everything was fine. She thought she could pivot, thought she could talk her way through it, smooth it over with charm and corporate lingo. She didn't know that upstairs, a storm was forming with her name on it. And the man controlling it wasn't ranting, wasn't begging. He was the firewall, the one she used to call overly cautious, the one she mocked for his color-coded folders, the one she told her friends was too good at being invisible. What she never understood was, invisibility isn't weakness. It's strategy. While she flirted her way through another cocktail hour, her boyfriend CO was learning that the man she betrayed wasn't just some jilted spouse with a bruised ego. He was the author of the code, the ghost in the system. And now, he was awake. The call went through 5 minutes later. I was sitting in my car outside the notary's office, documents in a folder beside me. when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. New York area code. No voicemail. Just a second ring. I picked up. A man's voice, sharp and controlled. Mr. Carr? Yes. This is Everett Langford, CEO of Orion Corporate. I believe we need to speak. I didn't say anything. He continued. I've reviewed the documents. And your annotations. You've been very thorough. I tend to be. He hesitated. May I ask what your endgame is here? I looked out the window. A bird perched on the power line. Watching. Silent. My endgame. I said. I don't play games, Mr. Langford. I write rules. Your firm just violated one with both hands. A pause. Then, more carefully, I'd like to meet. Personally. I'm open to that, I said. As long as she's not in the room. He exhaled slowly, as if he'd been holding his breath. Understood. When the call ended, I didn't feel relief. I felt precision, like the final turn of a wrench. She thought I was just her husband. Turns out, I'm the reason she doesn't have a job yet. She woke up to sunlight pouring through gauzy curtains and the faint scent of sea salt drifting through the balcony door. Miami was still humming, still pretending everything was perfect. The hotel room was quiet except for the soft whir of the ceiling fan and the low bass line of a playlist someone must have left running overnight. Danielle stretched, smiled, reached for her phone. 12 missed calls, all from internal extensions. Her heart stuttered. She blinked hard, sat up straighter in bed, and scrolled. Coup. General counsel. HR. Even her assistant, who never called after 6 p.m., much less on a weekend. Her fingers moved before her brain could catch up, unlocking the screen, pulling up Outlook, Slack, Teams. Messages everywhere. Urgent. Q4 travel review. Need to sync before Monday. Call me. Now. She swallowed hard. Open the last one. There's been a review initiated. Need clarification on your Miami itinerary ASAP. A cold flush crawled up her spine. She stood up too quickly, the bedsheet catching around her ankles, nearly tripping her. She looked around the room. Marcus was gone. His suitcase was zipped shut near the door. The only thing left on the nightstand was a folded receipt from the spa. Her name on it. Not his. The phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Danielle speaking. A pause. Then a low, clipped voice. This is Everett Langford. She froze. Marcus's CEO. I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting. I'm calling because your name came up during a legal and compliance review, he said, cutting through her preamble like a blade. She blinked. Is this about the spa? It was just. You need to talk to your husband. She sat down hard on the edge of the bed. What does he have to do with this? Langford exhaled. It was the sound of someone too tired to waste time pretending anymore. He sent us the receipts, Danielle. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. He also sent us the policy document from 3 years ago, the one you co-authored. Her stomach dropped. Her vision tunneled for a moment, the edges of the room going soft. She gripped the phone harder. That clause wasn't meant for this. I mean, technically, the client canceled and he sent us a time-stamped photo, your expense logs, and a digital edit history showing your initials approving the very clause you violated. I didn't. This wasn't. Marcus and I. Don't lie to me. Silence. It was so quiet. She could hear the soft splash of the pool 5 stories below. Some kid laughing. Someone's phone playing reggaeton on a lounge chair. I don't understand, she finally whispered. Langford's voice stayed cool. Measured. Corporate. This isn't a personal matter anymore. We're about to lose the merger because of this. Our partner's legal team is combing through every policy infraction. Yours just made the short list. A single sob clawed its way up her throat, but she choked it down. I didn't mean to. He didn't respond. Just waited. And then, softer, too soft. He knew exactly what clause to use, didn't he? She nodded before she realized he couldn't see her. Yes. Langford paused again, then said, he was never just your husband, was he? She didn't answer. The call ended. She sat there for a long time, still holding the phone to her ear, the dull tone of disconnection echoing louder than any scream. Her hands were shaking. She opened Instagram, swiping through her own posts, the pool boomerangs, the rooftop martini, that my kind of board meeting caption she thought was clever. All still public. All tagged. All time-stamped. Her jaw clenched. She opened her messages. Scrolled to her husband. The last thing he'd sent her. Glad you're enjoying the hotel. My lawyer has the receipt. She stared at the text, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. No words came. Because she finally understood something. This wasn't an argument. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a strategic strike. And he'd hit her where it hurt the most. Not her heart, her position, her image, her leverage. He knew her company better than she did, knew what mattered to the board, knew exactly what domino to knock over. And now, she was the falling piece, crumbling, click by click, all the way down. She got off the plane looking like someone who had lost a bet with the gods. No makeup, hair in a loose knot that screamed stress, not style. The blazer she usually wore for power meetings was wrinkled, clutched over one arm like a security blanket. She didn't stop to check messages. She didn't post a back in the grind selfie. She just moved through the terminal with tunnel vision, dragging her suitcase like it owed her an apology. The Uber ride was silent. She sat in the back seat, staring out the window as the city passed by. Billboards she didn't recognize anymore, stores that had opened and closed while she was climbing ladders and sipping rooftop cocktails. The skyline didn't look impressive today. It looked sharp, cold, indifferent. When she pulled up to the house, she noticed the first sign immediately. The porch light was off. It was always on when she returned from business trips. Always. Inside, she found him in the living room, folding one of his button-downs into a moving box. Not rushed, not frantic, deliberate, like he'd been waiting for this moment for years. She stood frozen in the entryway, one heel still halfway out of her suitcase. What are you doing? He didn't look up. Packing. For what? Still folding. Calm. Controlled. There's a folder on the kitchen table, he said, voice even. It has everything. She walked toward it like it might explode. Inside, a manila folder, slightly worn. Inside the folder, a signed divorce petition, financial separation agreement, asset breakdown, a detailed timeline of violations submitted to her company's legal department, photocopies, screenshots, receipts, even a letter from a corporate ethics attorney referencing Clause 14. She flipped through it, each page hitting harder than the last. No, this isn't. This can't just. Alex, please. He didn't turn around, just slid another pair of socks into a box. You're not serious. You can't just throw everything away like this. She was crying now, the way people cry when they're finally aware the audience has left. I made a mistake, but this is nuclear. He taped the box shut, then turned, finally, and met her eyes. The house, he said softly, is under my trust. It always has been. You have a week. She blinked. You put the house in a trust? When? Right before your firm's IPO. Just in case. You're doing this to humiliate me. No, he said. I'm doing this to protect what's mine. The words didn't rise in pitch. No venom. No bitterness. Just finality. Like a man handing in a keycard and walking out of a burning building he already emptied of valuables. She collapsed onto the bar stool by the kitchen island, staring down at the folder. How long have you been planning this? He tilted his head, considering the question. Long enough to do it right. That one landed harder than any scream. He turned away again, picked up the next box, opened the hallway closet. She stood, suddenly wild-eyed. What am I supposed to tell my board? My team? My family? I think they already know, he said, without turning around. Alex, you can't just erase me. Now he paused, set the box down, finally walked past her. He didn't say it cruelly, didn't even look angry, just tired. I didn't erase you, Danielle. You did that the moment you thought I was disposable. He walked upstairs, box in hand, like he was just organizing storage. And behind him, the door to the future she'd built on borrowed confidence, quietly closed. The fallout didn't explode, it bled. Quietly, methodically. The kind of damage that didn't light fires but instead soaked into the foundation, weakening everything it touched until the structure simply collapsed under its own weight. By the time Danielle made it into the office on Monday morning, the glass walls that once made her feel important now felt like interrogation chambers. She stepped off the elevator, heels clicking a little too loud, trying to mimic confidence she no longer had. People didn't meet her eyes. They looked past her, through her. Her badge still worked, but just barely. By 10:04 a.m., she received her first meeting retraction. Strategy brief, canceled by organizer. Then another. Q4 forecast call. You've been removed from this invite. By noon, the tone shifted from silence to clinical detachment. Compliance sent her an official notification. Pending internal review, you have been temporarily reassigned to special projects. Effective immediately. No explanation. No courtesy. No warmth. Just exile, neatly formatted in 12-point calibri. Marcus, her so-called work husband, didn't even show up. HR had called him in early. One look at the flagged expense reports, the overlapping travel logs, and the internal Slack messages with emojis they thought disappeared. and he was suspended before lunch. Pending investigation. No warning. No discussion. Just hand in your badge. By 2 p.m., the board called an emergency session. The conference room lights stayed on all afternoon. Glass walls frosted over. Executives pacing inside, faces tight, arms folded, laptops glowing like verdict machines. Someone leaked the clause. Clause 14. Her clause. The one she laughed about years ago over a glass of Cabernet while sitting cross-legged on her husband's lap, joking that rules are made to be bent. Turns out, bent rules snap under pressure. The merger, the firm's golden goose, was officially declared on pause, which, in corporate terms, meant dead. The partner company pulled out, citing leadership instability and policy enforcement inconsistencies. Legal tried to spin it. PR prepped a holding statement. But internally, everyone knew exactly whose name was under the microscope. Hers. Her direct reports were reassigned. Her inbox was frozen. Her team's access downgraded. She wasn't even informed directly. Her assistant texted her from a burner phone. Just got moved to BizOps. I'm sorry. That stung. But the silence from her mentor? That cut. She called. No answer. Texted. No reply. Even her longest tenured ally, the man who once told the CFO, Danielle is the future, went radio silent. That was the real punishment. Not the reassignment. Not the investigations. Not even the bruised merger. It was the slow, clinical erasure of who she'd been. Once, she was the star. Now, she was radioactive. The only calls she received were from HR. The kind where they say things like, "You're not being punished. We just need to maintain internal neutrality." As if being exiled to special projects wasn't punishment. As if watching her name disappear from decks, agendas, even the lobby's digital directory, wasn't the corporate equivalent of being unpersoned. She had no allies left in the building. Even the security guard at reception, who used to wink at her and say, "Crushing it today, boss," didn't look up as she walked past. She wasn't being reprimanded. She was being erased. Her LinkedIn profile still had her title. But inside the walls of the firm, that title didn't exist anymore. The call came just after 11 p.m., long after the lights were out, long after the last box had been taped shut and labeled. He recognized the number the moment it buzzed on his nightstand. He let it ring twice before answering. Not out of hesitation. Out of control. "Alex," the old man said. His voice was thinner than usual. Older somehow. Like the weight of what had happened had aged him in a matter of days. "Yes," Alex replied. A silence settled over the line. "You sent that to the board?" "I did." "You really sent the board an ethics violation file, with your wife's name at the center." Alex sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees. Ex-wife. Her father was quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when a man is standing at the edge of something. Anger, regret, awe, and isn't sure which way he's about to fall. "She called me," he said finally. Hysterical. Said her team is gone. Her mentor won't speak to her. The board froze her stock options this morning. She left me no choice. The old man laughed. Not out of amusement. Out of disbelief. "You think this is about you?" "No," Alex said. "It never was." A bitter inhale. "Do you have any idea what you've done? What this will cost her career? What it's already cost mine? Our name is on that merger. Her name. My trust was leveraged against their forward earnings." Alex didn't flinch. "I told her," he said evenly. "My silence wasn't weakness. It was restraint." Another pause. This one hung longer. "You didn't just take them down," her father finally said. His voice was quieter now, almost reverent. "You burned their future." Alex stood and walked toward the window, phone still to his ear. Outside, the city blinked and pulsed, oblivious to how many glass towers had just become tombstones for other people's ambitions. "She underestimated the wrong man," he said. "She underestimated everything," the old man muttered. "She thought the name, the job, the image, that it all made her untouchable. She used her company like a personal playground," Alex said. "Broke policies she helped write. Spent my money while violating her own clause. I gave her every out." She laughed. The old man sighed. "I vouched for her, you know. Told people she was the smartest of the family. That she had the instincts." "She did," Alex said. "Just not the discipline." A long beat. "Then, what are you going to do now?" Alex looked at the stack of labeled boxes in the hallway. The folder on the entry table. The house that felt less like a home every hour. "I'm leaving town. For good. Probably." Another silence. Then the old man said something Alex never expected to hear. "She was wrong about you." Alex said nothing. "You were never small," he continued. "She told me once, 'He's a stepping stone, Dad. I'll outgrow him.' Alex looked down at the carpet. Tell her, he said, that the man she used to walk on just pulled the floor out from under her. The old man exhaled, slow and resigned. And then, softer. I should have seen this coming. You did, Alex said. You just didn't want to believe it. The line went quiet. And in that silence, something shifted, not between two men, but inside the story she used to control. Her father wasn't defending her anymore. He was reckoning with her, with what she'd become. The call ended without a goodbye. No closure, just truth, cold and unvarnished. Alex placed the phone down, not on the nightstand, but into a small moving box marked documents. The ripples had reached her last line of protection, and they weren't stopping. The air in the lobby was too clean, overly conditioned, sterile, like the silence after a eulogy. Danielle stepped through the revolving door that Monday morning, trying to project something like composure. Her hair was pulled into a top bun, black slacks, tailored blazer, muted heels, armor. She knew the rumors had spread. She knew about the reassignment, the compliance review, the missed calls. But this building was her kingdom. She built half the processes that ran it. They didn't get to just exile her. Not without a fight. Then she saw the screen. Mounted above the reception desk, just beneath the firm's bronze seal, the LED ticker that usually showed stock prices and motivational buzzwords now displayed 3 words, pulsing in icy blue. Merger terminated. She froze. Her bag slid slightly off her shoulder. A second passed. Then a third. The security guard, David, someone she'd known since her first promotion, stepped forward. Morning, Miss Tate. She blinked. Hi, David. I'll need a guest pass. My badge isn't. He held up a hand. Gently. I've been asked not to let you upstairs. Her stomach dropped. What? There's something for you, he said, reaching behind the desk. A single envelope. Heavy, ivory paper. Her name typed cleanly across the front. She took it with hands she suddenly couldn't keep steady. Inside, a single sheet. Letterhead. Board seal. No soft language. Termination of employment. Effective immediately. For cause. It listed policy violations, breach of conduct, misuse of corporate resources, failure to disclose relationships in a supervisory dynamic, and Clause 14 of the company code, underlined. Her own clause. She stared at it. She didn't cry, didn't speak. She just looked up, slowly, trying to swallow the lump in her throat. That's when she saw him. Marcus. Her work husband. Her partner in rooftop drinks and sly glances and all the stupid inside jokes she thought made her clever. He was sitting in the lobby corner, head in his hands, suit disheveled, tie loose. His duffel bag at his feet. Not fired yet, but close. Just waiting for the axe to swing. He didn't look at her. Couldn't. She stepped back instinctively, like she could still fade into the walls, undo the spiral. And that's when the elevator doors opened. A man stepped out. Not fast. Not smug. Just measured. Gray suit. Briefcase in hand. Alex. Her ex-husband. He didn't flinch. Didn't slow. Just walked toward the exit with the quiet poise of a man who had already won. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. He passed the security desk. Looked at David. Then gave a small, respectful nod. Thank you. Then walked out without breaking stride. He never even looked at her. Not once. She stood there, silent, the letter trembling in her hand. And that was it. No explosion. No courtroom. No grand finale. Just a silent freeze. The kind that sets in after the warmth's been quietly drained for months, years, and you only realize it when you're standing alone, breath fogging in a room that used to feel like power. Now, it felt like exile. And the man she used to mock for being too quiet, too careful, too boring, he walked away colder than ice, with nothing left to say.